Let us understand something vital about human relationships today. Relationships are meant to be reciprocal. At their core, they should be based on mutual respect, shared values, and a sense of accountability to one another. However, not all relationships function that way. Some people step into our lives not to nurture, but to use. They have one objective: to benefit themselves, without any genuine care for your well-being. In relationships, one of the most troubling dynamics to encounter is manipulative behavior. Manipulation often manifests in subtle ways at first, making it difficult to immediately identify. A manipulative person is skilled in the art of creating a facade, making you feel valued or important, but their underlying motive is entirely self-serving. They manipulate situations and emotions to suit their own needs, leaving the other person in a constant state of confusion or emotional drain. What makes this dynamic particularly harmful is that, on the surface, it can appear that the manipulator genuinely cares. They may shower you with attention or offer seemingly supportive words, but this is simply a tactic to draw you in. It's crucial to understand that this type of person is not interested in your well-being. Instead, they are focused on maintaining control over the relationship in order to keep extracting whatever they need from you, be it your time, resources, influence, or emotional energy. It's not love, care, or even genuine interest. It's strategic exploitation. Manipulation often involves creating a sense of dependency. A person who manipulates you for their own benefit may subtly position themselves as indispensable to your life, making you feel as though you need them. This could involve offering help or guidance in situations where you feel vulnerable, but the intention is not to truly assist you, rather, is to ensure that you remain tied to them. They may create situations where you feel indebted to them or obligated to reciprocate their so-called generosity, further cementing the manipulative bond. In the end, this keeps you feeling beholden to them while they continue to exploit your resources, emotions, or time. A classic trait of manipulative individuals is their ability to play with your emotions, particularly your sense of guilt. They may make you feel guilty for not doing enough, for not being available when they need you, or for simply expressing your own needs. This guilt is engineered to keep you in line, making it harder for you to set boundaries or recognize that the relationship is harmful. They create a scenario where no matter what you do, it never feels like enough. This is a deliberate tactic designed to keep you striving to meet their unending demands, all while they offer very little in return. The manipulation can also extend to making you doubt your own judgment or perception of reality. This is commonly known as gaslighting, where the manipulative individual subtly twists events or conversations, making you question your memory or understanding of situations. Over time, this leads to a sense of confusion, where you are unsure of what is real and what is imagined. This is a powerful tool for someone who wants to control you, as it weakens your ability to trust your own instincts or make independent decisions. In a manipulative relationship, your autonomy is slowly eroded, and you begin to rely more and more on the manipulator's version of events or reality. Another significant aspect of manipulation is the way these individuals make you feel special or chosen. They might elevate your status, compliment you excessively, or make you feel like you are indispensable to them. This can be incredibly flattering and may create a deep emotional connection, but it's important to recognize that this is merely a tactic. By making you feel unique or needed, the manipulator ensures that you will continue to invest in the relationship, despite the growing signs that they are only using you for their benefit. This sense of exclusivity is a powerful tool in their arsenal, as it makes you more likely to overlook the negative aspects of the relationship, such as emotional neglect or manipulation. One of the most insidious elements of this behavior is that it can be hard to extricate yourself from it once you're entangled. Because manipulators often start small little favors here, minor emotional requests there. It's easy to rationalize their behavior. You might think they just need help right now, or they're going through a tough time. These small instances of manipulation build over time, creating a pattern that becomes difficult to break. Before long, you find yourself in a situation where their needs dominate the relationship, and your own needs are left unaddressed or ignored entirely. A manipulative person also often has a keen sense of timing. They know when to pull back and when to push forward. Just when you might start to feel overwhelmed or begin questioning the relationship, they may suddenly become affectionate or attentive again. This intermittent reinforcement creates an addictive cycle where you are constantly seeking the approval or attention that they occasionally provide. This behavior keeps you hooked, always hoping that the relationship will return to those moments when they seem caring and supportive. But these moments are fleeting and strategic, designed only to keep you engaged long enough for them to continue extracting what they need. A person who manipulates others for their own gain does not view relationships in the way a healthy, caring individual would. They see relationships as transactions, opportunities to get what they need, with little concern for the impact on the other person. Once their needs are no longer being met, or once you become aware of their manipulative tactics, they are likely to move on quickly, often leaving emotional damage in their wake. Recognizing manipulation is the first step in protecting yourself from it. It requires awareness and a willingness to acknowledge the imbalance in the relationship. Once you can see the signs of manipulation, you can begin to reclaim your power by setting boundaries, asserting your needs, and ultimately disengaging from relationships that do not honor or respect your worth. A person who uses others without genuine care exhibits a distinct lack of emotional investment. This absence of emotional connection is often one of the clearest indicators that the relationship is one-sided and self-serving. In healthy relationships, emotional investment is mutual. Both individuals express interest in each other's well-being, thoughts, and feelings. However, when someone uses you without caring for you, their emotional involvement is superficial or non-existent. In these kinds of relationships, the other person is primarily focused on fulfilling their own needs, whether it be for attention, resources, validation, or support. They rarely, if ever, engage with you on an emotional level, except when it benefits them directly. If you look closely, you'll see that their responses to your emotional needs are often dismissive or indifferent. They may even make you feel like your concerns are insignificant or not worth their time. This is because they do not see the relationship as a space for mutual support. They view it as a means to get what they want. One way to recognize a lack of emotional investment is by observing how the person reacts when you express vulnerability. In a caring relationship, when you open up emotionally, whether you're sharing a problem, expressing joy, or asking for advice, the other person listens attentively and responds with empathy. They seek to understand your feelings and offer support. In contrast, a person who lacks emotional investment often brushes off your emotions. They may respond with disinterest, quickly change the subject, or offer surface-level comfort that lacks sincerity. They might even express impatience, as if your emotional needs are burdensome or irrelevant to them. Another hallmark of this dynamic is that these individuals tend to engage in transactional behavior rather than emotional reciprocity. They view interactions as exchanges of favors, where their focus is on what they can gain, rather than the emotional bond that could be strengthened through genuine connection. For instance, they may help you with something only because they expect something in return, not because they genuinely care about you. When you need emotional support, they are absent or aloof, but when they need something from you, they become suddenly attentive, seeking to manipulate the situation to their advantage. A lack of emotional investment also becomes evident in how these individuals handle communication. In a healthy relationship, communication is key, and both parties feel comfortable discussing their emotions, thoughts, and concerns openly. However, when someone is only using you, their communication is often shallow or inconsistent. They may only reach out when they need something, and conversations are frequently centered around their needs or interests. When the conversation shifts toward your emotional needs or experiences, they quickly lose interest or become disengaged. This lack of emotional depth can also be seen in their reactions during conflicts or difficult situations. In emotionally invested relationships, conflict is approached with the goal of understanding and resolution. Both parties care about each other's feelings and work together to address issues in a way that strengthens the relationship. However, someone who doesn't care about you will avoid or minimize conflict, not because they want peace, but because they simply don't care enough to engage with your emotions. They may downplay your concerns, dismiss them as unimportant, or even become defensive, turning the blame onto you to avoid addressing the real issue. In addition, a person who lacks emotional investment is unlikely to celebrate your successes or achievements unless they can benefit from them. In a genuinely caring relationship, your joy and accomplishments matter to the other person. They feel happy for you and celebrate alongside you. But when someone is only using you, they either ignore your successes or offer empty congratulations that lack sincerity. Their indifference toward your emotional milestones is a clear sign that they are not truly invested in you as a person. They are only interested in how you can serve their needs. Another telling aspect of emotional detachment is how they respond during times of crisis or when you are struggling. A person who cares about you will offer support, whether it's through listening, providing comfort, or actively helping you overcome the situation. But someone who lacks emotional investment will either disappear or offer minimal, insincere support. They may offer a quick word of encouragement, but it will be clear that they are not truly engaged in helping you through the difficult time. Often their assistance is perfunctory, something they do just to keep you around, rather than because they genuinely care about your well-being. This behavior often leaves the emotionally invested person feeling confused, hurt, or neglected. You may find yourself wondering why they are so detached, or you may even start to question your own worth in the relationship. This is one of the more damaging effects of a lack of emotional investment. You begin to internalize the other person's indifference, leading to self-doubt and insecurity. You may feel like you're giving everything to the relationship while receiving very little in return, which is both emotionally exhausting and demoralizing. The lack of emotional investment reveals that the relationship is not built on a foundation of mutual care or respect. Instead, it is a one-sided dynamic where one person continually gives while the other takes without reciprocating. Over time, this imbalance can erode your sense of self-worth as you realize that the person you're investing in emotionally is not interested in offering the same in return. It's essential to recognize this pattern early and establish clear boundaries to protect your emotional well-being. A relationship that lacks emotional investment is unsustainable and will inevitably lead to disappointment, frustration, and emotional fatigue. Recognizing this behavior allows you to make more informed choices about who you allow into your life and how much emotional energy you're willing to invest in others. Another clear indicator of a person who uses others and doesn't genuinely care is their tendency to take more than they give. In healthy relationships, there is a natural flow of giving and receiving. Both parties contribute, not just materially, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. There is a balance, a sense of equity where both individuals feel supported, valued, and respected. However, when someone is primarily focused on what they can get from you, this balance is lost. The relationship becomes overwhelmingly one-sided, with one person constantly giving and the other continually taking without offering much, if anything, in return. This dynamic can manifest in various ways. For example, they may constantly rely on you for help, favors, or emotional support, yet when you need assistance, they are nowhere to be found. You may notice that you're the one who's always listening to their problems, offering advice, and being there for them during difficult times, but when you're struggling, they are either unavailable or show little interest in what you're going through. This lack of reciprocity is a red flag that the person is more interested in what they can extract from the relationship than in nurturing it. This behavior can also be seen in the way they approach resources, both tangible and intangible. They may frequently ask for favors, whether it's borrowing money, using your time, or tapping into your social network to advance their own interests. When it comes to financial matters, they may habitually ask for loans, expect you to cover expenses, or subtly manipulate situations so that you end up footing the bill more often than not. And when it's time for them to return the favor, they either make excuses or fail to follow through, leaving you feeling drained and exploited. This imbalance is not just limited to material resources. They may also take emotional energy from you without giving anything in return. You might find yourself constantly acting as their emotional support, listening to their frustrations, fears, and challenges. While it's natural to support those we care about in a one-sided relationship, the emotional exchange is completely skewed. You give, but they rarely, if ever, give back. When you express your own concerns or emotions, they may dismiss them or offer shallow, surface-level responses that indicate they aren't truly engaged or interested. Over time, this can leave you feeling emotionally exhausted and underappreciated as your emotional needs are ignored or minimized. A person who takes more than they give often has an inflated sense of entitlement. They may believe, either consciously or unconsciously, that they are more deserving of your resources, time, and attention than you are of theirs. This entitlement can manifest in subtle ways, such as always assuming that you'll be available when they need you, or expecting you to prioritize their needs over your own. They might act as though they are doing you a favor by allowing you to help them, creating a dynamic where you feel obligated to give more and more, even when it's clear that the relationship is unbalanced. What's particularly damaging about this behavior is that it often leaves the giver feeling unworthy or undervalued. When you're consistently giving without receiving anything in return, it can start to wear down your sense of self-worth. You may begin to question whether you're asking too much, even though you're only seeking the same level of care and support that you've been providing. This dynamic creates a cycle where the person being used continues to give, hoping for reciprocity, while the user continues to take without giving anything meaningful in return. It's important to note that people who take more than they give are often very good at justifying their behavior. They may position themselves as victims constantly in need of help and may manipulate situations so that you feel guilty for not giving them what they want. They might claim that they're going through a tough time or that they have no one else to turn to, which makes it difficult for you to say no. This emotional manipulation is a key part of how they maintain control over the relationship, ensuring that you continue to give while they continue to take. Another tactic they may use is to offer just enough in return to keep you engaged, but never enough to truly balance the scales. They might give small tokens of appreciation or offer fleeting moments of support, but these gestures are often minimal and don't address the larger imbalance in the relationship. This can create confusion, as you may feel that they are trying or that they do care, but in reality, these small gestures are calculated to keep you invested in the relationship without requiring them to make any real effort. Over time, this type of relationship can lead to feelings of resentment and frustration. You may begin to feel that your kindness is being taken advantage of, that your generosity is being exploited, and that your needs are being overlooked. This realization can be difficult to come to terms with, especially if you care about the person and want the relationship to succeed. However, it's important to recognize that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, care, and reciprocity. If you find yourself in a relationship where you are consistently giving more than you are receiving, it may be time to reevaluate the dynamic and set boundaries to protect your own well-being. Setting boundaries with someone who takes more than they give is essential for restoring balance in the relationship. This might involve limiting the time, energy, and resources you're willing to invest, or clearly communicating your needs and expectations. It's important to remember that you are not obligated to continue giving to someone who doesn't value or appreciate your efforts. Healthy relationships are built on mutual give and take, and if someone is unwilling or unable to contribute equally, it may be necessary to distance yourself from them. A person who takes more than they give is primarily focused on their own needs and desires, often at the expense of others. They lack the emotional maturity and empathy required to engage in a truly reciprocal relationship, and their behavior can leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, and undervalued. Recognizing this dynamic is the first step toward reclaiming your power and ensuring that your relationships are balanced, healthy, and fulfilling. A key characteristic of someone who uses others without caring about them is their consistent pattern of selfishness and self-centered behavior. This type of individual places their own needs, desires, and interests above everything else, often without regard for the feelings or well-being of those around them. Their primary focus is on what benefits them, and they engage with others only to the extent that it serves their own agenda. This self-centered mindset is at the core of their interactions, making them incapable of forming genuine, balanced relationships based on mutual respect and care. People who exhibit selfish behavior are often easy to identify through their actions. They may consistently prioritize their own wants and needs over yours, expecting you to adjust your life to accommodate them. For instance, they might regularly ask for favors such as your time, attention, or resources, but rarely offer to help you in return. When they do something for you, it's often transactional, as they expect something in return. Their behavior reveals that they are not truly concerned with building a relationship based on reciprocity. Rather, they see relationships as opportunities to take what they want while giving as little as possible in return. Self-centered individuals often lack empathy, which is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Empathy is a critical component of any healthy relationship because it allows individuals to connect on a deeper emotional level, showing care and concern for each other's well-being. However, people who are selfish and self-centered tend to be emotionally detached. They are so focused on their own interests that they fail to recognize or acknowledge the emotional needs of those around them. When someone is going through a tough time, instead of offering support or compassion, a selfish person may minimize the other person's feelings, change the subject back to themselves, or simply disappear when they are no longer getting something out of the relationship. Their conversations often revolve around themselves. They talk excessively about their problems, their successes, their dreams, and their desires while showing little interest in what you have to say. When you try to share something about your own life, they may listen only superficially or quickly turn the conversation back to themselves. This behavior can make you feel invisible, as if your thoughts, feelings, and experiences don't matter. Over time, being in a relationship with a selfish person can erode your sense of self-worth, as you constantly feel overshadowed by their needs and desires. In addition to dominating conversations, selfish individuals tend to disregard boundaries. Boundaries are essential in any relationship because they define the limits of acceptable behavior and ensure that both parties feel respected and valued. A person who uses others without caring about them often ignores these boundaries, pushing for more than what is reasonable or comfortable. They may ask for too much of your time, invade your personal space, or make unreasonable demands on your resources. When you try to set limits, they may react with frustration, manipulation, or guilt-tripping, making you feel bad for trying to protect your own well-being. For example, if you express that you are unable to help them with something, they may respond by making you feel guilty, saying things like, "After all I've done for you," or "I guess I can't count on you." This manipulative tactic is designed to make you feel obligated to meet their demands, even when it's not in your best interest. In this way, selfish individuals maintain control over the relationship, ensuring that their needs are always prioritized while yours are sidelined. Selfishness is also apparent in the way these individuals handle conflict. In any relationship, conflicts are inevitable, but how those conflicts are addressed is key to maintaining a healthy dynamic. In a balanced relationship, both parties are willing to listen, compromise, and find a solution that benefits both sides. However, a selfish person tends to view conflicts through the lens of their own self-interest. They are more concerned with winning the argument or getting their way than with resolving the issue in a fair or compassionate manner. They may refuse to acknowledge your perspective, dismiss your feelings, or escalate the situation to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. A selfish person's inability to compromise further highlights their self-centered nature. In a healthy relationship, compromise is essential because it shows that both parties are willing to meet halfway and prioritize the relationship over individual desires. However, someone who is selfish rarely compromises. They may make decisions without consulting you or take actions that benefit only themselves, expecting you to simply accept their choices. When they do make concessions, it's often because they feel pressured or see it as a way to get something they want in return, rather than out of genuine concern for your needs or the health of the relationship. Another important aspect of selfishness is that it often leads to exploitation. Because these individuals are primarily focused on their own gain, they have no problem using others to achieve their goals. They may exploit your kindness, generosity, or loyalty, taking advantage of your willingness to help or support them. This behavior is particularly damaging because it creates a dynamic where you are constantly giving and they are constantly taking, with no regard for the toll it takes on you emotionally, mentally, or financially. Over time, this exploitation can leave you feeling drained, unappreciated, and resentful. Self-centered people also tend to have a selective sense of loyalty. They are loyal as long as it serves their interests, but the moment the relationship no longer benefits them, they may quickly distance themselves or disappear entirely. They have no problem cutting ties when they can no longer extract something of value from the relationship, leaving the other person feeling abandoned and used. This lack of genuine loyalty reveals that their connection with you was never about mutual care or respect, but rather about what they could get from you. In summary, selfish and self-centered behavior is a key characteristic of someone who uses others without caring about them. Their interactions are driven by their own needs and desires, with little regard for the well-being or emotions of others. They dominate conversations, disregard boundaries, avoid compromise, and often exploit those around them to get what they want. Recognizing these patterns is crucial in identifying relationships that are imbalanced and unhealthy, and it empowers you to take action to protect yourself from further harm. One of the clearest signs that someone is using you without truly caring about you is their pattern of avoiding accountability or responsibility. This behavior often manifests when things go wrong, and instead of owning up to their actions or mistakes, they quickly shift the blame to others, including you. This tendency to dodge responsibility is not just a minor personality flaw. It reveals a deeper unwillingness to be vulnerable or to engage in genuine self-reflection. People who refuse to be accountable are often more concerned with preserving their image, maintaining control, or avoiding the discomfort that comes with admitting fault. In a healthy relationship, whether personal or professional, both parties understand that taking responsibility is a cornerstone of trust and growth. We all make mistakes, and the ability to acknowledge them, learn from them, and take steps to make things right is essential for any relationship to thrive. However, when someone uses others without truly caring for them, they operate from a self-serving perspective. For them, relationships are primarily transactional. As a result, when issues arise, their primary concern is to protect themselves, even at the expense of others. They often do this by diverting blame, denying their role in the problem, or minimizing the situation altogether. When someone avoids accountability, they may do so in subtle, manipulative ways. For example, they might deflect responsibility by suggesting that your expectations were unreasonable or that you misunderstood the situation. This tactic of deflection makes you second-guess yourself, shifting the focus away from their behavior and onto you. In doing so, they avoid facing the consequences of their actions while leaving you feeling confused or even guilty for bringing up the issue in the first place. In more blatant cases, they may outright deny that they were involved in any wrongdoing. Even when presented with clear evidence of their mistake or failure, they might refuse to acknowledge it, acting as though they did nothing wrong. This can be incredibly frustrating and damaging, especially when it becomes a repeated pattern in the relationship. Over time, their consistent refusal to take responsibility can make you feel as though your concerns are invalid or insignificant, further eroding your confidence and sense of fairness. A person who consistently avoids accountability also tends to make excuses for their behavior. Rather than admitting that they made a poor decision or acted selfishly, they will offer rationalizations that paint them as the victim of circumstances beyond their control. They might say things like, "I didn't have a choice," or "I was under a lot of pressure," while it's true that external factors can influence our behavior. Someone who genuinely cares about you will still acknowledge their role in the situation and express a willingness to make amends. However, when someone is primarily focused on using you, they are far more interested in justifying their actions than in repairing any harm they may have caused. Another way that people avoid accountability is by shifting the focus of the conversation to your perceived shortcomings. When you bring up a legitimate concern about their behavior, they may respond by pointing out things you've done wrong, even if those things are unrelated to the issue at hand. This tactic, known as whataboutism, serves to divert attention from their own actions and put you on the defensive. Instead of addressing the problem directly, they create a false equivalence, suggesting that because you're not perfect, you have no right to hold them accountable. This is a manipulative strategy that allows them to escape responsibility while simultaneously diminishing your legitimate grievances. In addition to avoiding responsibility in conflict situations, people who use others often fail to follow through on their commitments. They may make promises or agree to do things, but when it comes time to fulfill those promises, they either make excuses or simply fail to deliver. For example, they might agree to help you with a task or offer to be there for you during a challenging time, but when the moment comes, they are nowhere to be found. When confronted about their failure to follow through, they will often deflect or downplay the importance of the commitment, once again avoiding accountability. What makes this pattern especially harmful is that it creates a sense of unpredictability and instability in the relationship. You never know if the person will actually come through for you, which can leave you feeling anxious and uncertain. Over time, this erosion of trust can severely damage the relationship as you begin to realize that you cannot rely on them to take responsibility for their actions or to keep their word. People who avoid accountability are also skilled at shifting emotional responsibility. In any relationship, there are moments when difficult emotions arise, whether it's hurt, disappointment, or frustration. In a caring relationship, both parties are willing to address these emotions and take responsibility for how their actions may have contributed to them. However, someone who uses others without caring often avoids emotional responsibility by minimizing your feelings or invalidating your experience. They may say things like, "You're overreacting," or "That's not a big deal," in an attempt to dismiss your emotions and avoid taking responsibility for how their actions have affected you. This emotional avoidance can leave you feeling isolated and misunderstood. Instead of having your feelings acknowledged and addressed, you are left to manage them on your own, with no resolution in sight. This lack of emotional accountability can be just as damaging as the avoidance of practical or behavioral responsibility, because it undermines the emotional connection that is vital for any relationship to thrive. A person who avoids accountability is not invested in the well-being of the relationship. Their primary goal is to protect themselves from discomfort, criticism, or consequences, even if that means hurting or abandoning others in the process. This behavior creates a toxic dynamic where you are constantly left picking up the pieces, dealing with the fallout of their actions, and shouldering the burden of responsibility on your own. It's important to recognize that healthy relationships are built on mutual accountability. Both parties must be willing to take ownership of their actions, admit when they are wrong, and work together to address issues as they arise. When someone consistently avoids responsibility, they are sending a clear message that they are more interested in using you for their own gain than in building a relationship based on trust, respect, and care. Understanding this dynamic can empower you to take a step back and reevaluate the relationship. You are not obligated to stay in a situation where someone consistently refuses to be accountable for their actions. By recognizing these patterns and setting clear boundaries, you can protect yourself from further harm and seek out relationships that are based on genuine care, mutual respect, and shared responsibility. Recognizing the behaviors and patterns of someone who uses others without caring is essential for protecting yourself and maintaining your emotional well-being. These individuals often prioritize their own interests, display a lack of empathy, and avoid accountability, creating one-sided relationships where you are left feeling drained and undervalued. By identifying their selfishness, manipulative tactics, and refusal to take responsibility, you gain the clarity to step back and evaluate the nature of the relationship. Genuine connections are built on mutual respect, trust, and shared responsibility. When these elements are missing, it's important to set boundaries, protect your worth, and seek healthier relationships that honor your value.